Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I promise is the last video that we're going to do on the Ferrari 488 this week. It's going to be just, I think it's obvious, we did the tires and a little bit of qualifying setup changes just to learn how the car reacted, and we did the aerodynamics video where we did the full aero map on the car, and now today we're going to test it at Le Mans and just see if the car behaves any differently. We've seen that sometimes teams bring different packages to Le Mans, and in the case of the Aston Martin, I compared and showed you how Aston Martin blanks off a bunch of louvers, blanks off some openings in the front for brake cooling and engine cooling, and then they remove the front canards, and then they change the rear wing entirely among some of the changes that you'll see. Just doing a little bit of quick research, I looked and saw that you can't really find that type of stuff on the Ferrari 488. One thing is that the rules have changed since, so I know that openings over the wheel wells is not allowed anymore. But basically all I see is that they remove some canards and they run the same wing but just at a lower angle. Here's a photo. Where's a good photo? Well, here's a better photo of the car supposedly at Silverstone. We can see that the front has this canard on it, and you see that the rear wing has a tiny bit more angle. But other than that, these fences on the side of the splitter are still there, and everything else, these openings behind the rear wheel are still there, and these openings here. The only thing I suspect is that this radiator outlet might have changed just a tiny bit, but there's no way for me to really prove that. So let's go ahead and go to Le Mans and see if there's any changes. Alright guys, so we're at Le Mans and now let's see the setup. Basically what we're going to do is run the flat setup with the 3-wing, and then we're going to take it down. I mean, we have to do it for the sake of comparison. So let's go ahead and just run it this way, how it is. So we're at 55.5 millimeters in the front and 55.3 millimeters at the rear. And then after that, we're going to lower the rear wing by 1 click and run it again, and then we'll do a third run where we're going to put the wing back to 3 but just raise the nose by 3 millimeters and see what happens. Okay, so let's do. Telemetry is engaged, you have to be sure. So we're going to have to get to the back straightaway. So here we slow down for 60 kilometers. So we're at 60 kph. 60, 60, 60, 60, 60. Okay, that's long enough. Now we can accelerate for 150. And now we do our coast. It's okay that we drive through the chicane because right now it's not doing any kind of calculation. And really we don't need the final friction value anyway. Okay, let's just stop right there because we don't need friction. We have it. And the mechanical friction is not going to change. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do another one. Okay guys, so we're back here and let's check out the data and see how it compares. So now we have the racetrack and let's see. I have the maps from yesterday. So for this setup, we're running the 55-55, which dynamically is this one, and we see it's pretty close. Let's see what the front percentage is. 31%, and let's see what our CLA is. 5.5, 0.9, 318. So it's pretty close. 5.9, 5.7. It's pretty close, these results, running the same setup. Not a huge difference. One thing that we see that's exactly the same is this percentage here, 5.6, 5.3. We're seeing tiny differences in these test values, and part of the reason might be the precision. So I feel sometimes if you do this test over and over again, you're just asking too much to be able to replicate down to the smallest value. You know, plus or minus 10 newtons is way too much. It's and even 100 newtons is not very much difference. So it seems like what's going on is just these values want to be the same, but if you do this test a couple different times, depending on your acceleration and whatnot, you know, there's still a little bit of variability. Like here you see in this plot, you see that the front downforce is pretty stable, but for some reason the rear downforce is climbing, and that is a little bit suspicious. I know I've heard of some things about Le Mans, the racetrack, and different spots on the road that you can be on that alters the car's downforce or drag. So honestly, I didn't notice where I was driving, but something's causing a small change in the rear downforce there. The front downforce seems pretty stable, changing just a little bit. So maybe I drove across the road or something. In any case, I'm going to call this close enough to the original to say that it actually is the same downforce package and that Ferrari hasn't really changed anything for Le Mans. So we're pretty much getting the same values as we did. So this table will be valid just as it was. But, well, I guess there's nothing that we can do. All right, so let's compare to the wing, just bringing it down one hole. Let's see where the values were calculated. So here for the wing and with one hole low, the test was done, and this second batch right here is a lot more stable, but generally I think that this was a little bit better run. The rear downforce didn't climb that much, or did it? I guess it climbed about the same amount. I wonder about just drifting across the track. Maybe we'll look at the replay. In any case, what did we see? We saw front percentage increase of 1%. which is exactly what I would have predicted just from reviewing the data yesterday. And overall downforce dropped just a tiny bit, but not very much. Or did it? Well, according to this, actually, the downforce went up. Front downforce went up. Rear downforce went up. Lift over drag ratio got better. The coefficient of drag went down. Coefficient of lift went up. That's a bit curious. Okay, fine. And now let's compare that to so let's compare that data to the case of the front nose being up a little bit. And let's see what it is compared to the wing being down. So if you see, when you raise the nose by 3 millimeters, you are actually sending the percentage rearward a little bit, which is what we would expect. You are taking off a little bit of front downforce. You're also taking off a little bit of the rear downforce, which is what we would expect. You're changing the angle of attack on the rear wing as you raise the nose. The drag coefficient went down just a little bit, but I'm going to call these two identical. And your coefficient of lift went down a little bit. So the basic effect of raising the nose 3 millimeters, or the basic difference, is that you achieve basically the same drag. You reduce your overall downforce, but the only benefit is that if you already have a car that's aero loose, that your center of pressure is just going to be a tiny bit more towards the back than if it was just compared to removing the wing. That's a small difference, but we're always just looking for small differences. And effectively, in this case, if you're already experiencing too much oversteer and you want more straightaway speed, that removing the wing is usually not going to be an option, just taking off more wing, because you're just going to make your situation worse. So one option is to actually increase the front right height just a tiny bit and see how that plays. But we're talking about small amount. If you already have rake, positive rake, and the nose is down, then it's okay to bring the nose up a little bit or bring the rear down a little bit. But right now, at Le Mans, the rake is pretty flat for most people's setups, I would imagine. So then your options become either lowering the rear or increasing the front. In this case, when we did the test, we were 55-55 front and rear, so there was nowhere to go. So what we ended up doing is just increasing the nose ride height by 3 millimeters, and 3 millimeters was enough to basically achieve the same drag coefficient, but we're achieving it in such a way where we're promoting a little bit more understeer instead of oversteer. So you'll get a little bit better balance out of the car and maybe improve lap times. That's if you're already at the limit and couldn't make the car react any other way other than, if you ran out of mechanical adjustments as well. But this is a case of using your aero adjustments to make sure that the balance of the car stays right. When you're looking at your aero adjustments, you always have to think about what your ride heights are doing and how sensitive the car is to ride height changes. So definitely you can achieve good aero balance in the car with these tools. You can fine tune it. You can make an adjustment or a change to the wing angle, and then try to get back your preferred aero balance, whatever that might be. 32. You might find that 40, 35, maybe 35 is a key number. You can see that you can have 35% aero balance a lot of different ways, and then you make a wing adjustment, and then that'll change, but then you can get it back by making a ride height adjustment to compensate. Right here is the results from yesterday when you change the wing, and then I made some equations here that show you how the changes in the wing affect the values here. So you can see how these things are related. So you can see that the front downforce, wing changes affect the front downforce linearly. Same thing with the rear downforce. But the lift to drag ratio, that's a second order polynomial that will model that behavior. The drag coefficient is linear. The lift coefficient is nonlinear. It's a second degree polynomial again. The aero balance, that's a linear function. And then the total downforce, that's a second order polynomial. So this behavior here, I can kind of calculate what the result would be if I make a wing adjustment. There's a lot of different things I can do. I could either have a box here with the wing angle or the wing position, and then have the population here change. You know, that's an option, but we'll see. But basically, what I can say that through this video and these results, and we can validate that at Le Mans, they don't change the car very much, if at all. It seems like the results that we had from running the car at Daytona were the same as here. So I recommend, yeah, you can end up using very low wing, but more importantly, make sure that you maintain your aero balance, and you can make fine adjustments by changing the front or rear ride height by 2 or 3 millimeters. And then 2 or 3 millimeters is enough to make a 1 to 2% change in aero balance. And we'll make a change of maybe anywhere. It'll make considerable changes in coefficient of drag. Maybe 0.1 to 0.2. Call it 0.015 changes to drag coefficient going up or down. You can add by playing around with 3 millimeters, and the lift will change somewhat around the same. Okay, so I hope you guys found this informative. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We didn't really go very deep or mathematical today. It's just a quick little test, and I think we can say with certainty that we learned something about the car's behavior at Le Mans, which is a very important racetrack and an important race coming up this weekend. So if you're struggling for balance, I recommend small changes to your ride height, potentially increasing the front ride height. Very, very small changes might make a difference. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for watching.